Hey team, welcome to the Football Feast podcast. I'm your host, Craig Evans, and over the next 6 episodes, we'll be diving deep into what it takes for young players to become an elite footballer. Every fortnight, I'll be sitting down with experts from the world of football, agents, coaches, nutritionists, and more, to give you insider tips, advice, and strategies to make those football dreams a reality. On today's episode, we have Christie Murray, captain of Birmingham women's team. She's represented Scotland on more than 50 occasions and has also started the Christie Murray Football Academy for girls. In this episode, we discuss Christie's journey for football, what it's like playing for clubs like Arsenal, Liverpool, and Birmingham, what it takes to play international football. She has advice for young players and parents, the power of compounding and being resilient, and much, much more. Enjoy. Hey, Christie. Welcome to the Football Feast. This is episode 2 of the Future Star series. But yeah, thanks for jumping on.
No, thank you for having me on. It's nice to obviously be able to chat to you, even so far away.
Yeah, it's actually it's 1:30 in the morning right now, so
Oh
prime
my
time
God.
here.
Wow.
So I figure we'll start off with a question, sort of what inspired you to start playing football, and who are your role models sort of growing up?
Um, I don't really know if I was more inspired to play. I just loved to play football. I love to do sports, and I think because I have a brother and a sister, and my brother is a year younger than me. So from very, very early on, both of us were playing sport from very young. Whether it was in the streets, we played a lot of street football. With our friends, we'd be playing in school. We'd run home after school finished, get changed, and then go out to the park and play all day until basically my mum would come home. Well, come from home, tell us dinner was ready, and then we'd be back out again after dinner until it was time to go to bed. So I think from such a young age, I've just always had a passion for football. And kind of as I started to get older, I started to kind of want to play a bit more seriously. And in terms of just like people that I looked up to, or footballers, there wasn't really any females that I could kind of visibly see or watch on television at that point. I'm a Celtic fan, so my brother and I and my dad always used to go to the Celtic games, and Henrik Larsson was a player that I loved watching. And then on television, it was usually Ronaldinho that I loved because he was so creative and just actually loved playing. You could tell because he always played with a smile on his face. So I would say growing up, those were the two players that I really enjoyed watching and felt inspired by.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, I feel like I'm really excited for sort of the next generation. Like over here in Australia, obviously like we're filling out stadiums whenever the Matildas play, and we've got young girls and even like a lot of young boys. Like my son, he has a Sam Kerr shirt, and like that's pretty exciting for us, and I think that's really exciting because like my sister, she started playing a bit of football and when we were younger, and she didn't have that
Mhm.
either. She didn't have sort of the female role models to look up to, and I think that's like pretty exciting for like the women's game and having that sort of generation to look up to and inspire them. So yeah, and I'm sure you're one of those role models for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. I think like for my generation, I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure a lot of the girls feel the same that like we want to obviously leave that kind of legacy and have to give young girls something to look up to and to follow and to know that that's something that they can do and aspire to be. And I think just with the visibility of women's football right now and like you said, like there's young boys and young girls now coming to watch female football and it's continuously growing. So it's nice to be part of it, and it's nice to see that young girls and boys kind of look up to young female footballers and aspire to obviously play the game at a higher level as well at some point.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So can you share some sort of key moments or decisions in your youth that sort of helped shape your career? Was there like a pivotal moment?
Yeah, I think again, like I said, that in my generation there wasn't really you couldn't really aspire to play football professionally as such. I was kind of there growing up watching Bend It Like Beckham, so it was going off to a scholarship in America, and being a student athlete and kind of almost being professional but not really being paid to do it. So when I turned think 15, I started playing for our national team youth age groups. I played under 15s at the same age, so 15 under 15s, and then I played for the under 17s just after I moved up from under 15s. Um, and I went away to play like a tournament with a few other teams, countries there. And I actually got scouted to go and play in America when I was 16. So I think for me that was a huge moment, both personally and professionally, because to move away at such a young age. I just finished the equivalent of GCSEs, which you would call them in England. We did our standard grade, so I just finished school. I still would have had a further 2 years to go at high school if I chose to, but I could have left. So I did. I decided to leave. I done my SATs, and I moved pretty much to the other end of the world and went to Jefferson City, Tennessee, and played for Carson Newman College, which was a huge move, I think, for being so young. But again, my dream was to play football every day. So that kind of, again, like I said, watching Bend It Like Beckham, I just thought, well, I've got to go and try it. The States were kind of like, in my eyes, the highest kind of place where you could play football. So I went out there, and it was an amazing experience. Just obviously, firstly, moving away from home at such a young age, and then developing as a young athlete. I think training every day. I think in pre-season we trained 3 times a day, and that was a huge kind of wake-up call for me as a young athlete to kind of see kind of what was the expectation and to develop, and also play against women effectively in the obviously the NCAA games. So that was for me the best decision, one of the best decisions at a youth age group that I made, because it showed me what the level was, and it showed me um, the things that I need to do to get myself to a professional level or close to, and the kind of training required. So for me, that was probably at 16. Yeah, it was a huge decision. I don't know at this point why my mum or how my mum and dad let me travel all that way on my own, but I'm very grateful that they did, because sometimes you just need to jump into the deep end.
Yeah, wow. What an
Yeah,
experience. That's
yeah,
like a leap of faith sort of thing. Like you've jumped out and you've gone into the
yeah.
fire. That's pretty cool and really inspiring actually. Like, yeah, hopefully like there's some young girls listening to this and thinking, that maybe they're in that decision and
hmm
umming and ahhing and hopefully they hear that and think, oh, okay, like, it can be done and it's a good move to do.
Yeah, and I think for me, obviously, again, like I say, at that point, there wasn't really anything else other than going into women's football. So, unfortunately, when I moved to America, I wasn't able to play for the national team because they weren't prepared to fly me home for the youth age groups, which was understandable at that point. So, I ended up only staying in America until the Christmas, so 6 months. Um, but even in just that short time, I was able to obviously develop a lot and come back and know that when I did come home, I was ready to like take the next step in level and aspire to play for the full national team with Scotland, which I did a few years later.
Do you feel like so like obviously there was a big difference in level when you went over there. Do you feel like now, like in the UK, it's at the
Mhm.
same level as it was in America then, or do you reckon it's higher now, or it's similar?
I think just in general, women's football's come on like leaps and bounds physically, technically, tactically. Even in the last few years, I think the professionalisation of the game's um, been massive, allowing obviously females to focus solely on just being a professional athlete and not having any other things to juggle, which I think if people are working full time and expected to train full time as well, it's a very difficult thing to balance. So I think just that in general has been a huge stepping stone for the women's game, in terms of just like the intensity and quality um, that's kind of on show right now. So I think all over the world, I think the women's game's definitely hugely developed.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely makes sense. So okay, so having played for like top clubs like Birmingham, Liverpool, and Arsenal, what lessons did you learn from those environments that sort of helped you grow as a player?
I think for me, like when I first joined Arsenal, like that was my first taste into professional football, and I was playing alongside players that I'd watched on the telly, which was a massive kind of oh crap moment for me because I was a bit intimidated a little bit, if I'm honest, as a young player just coming in and watching people that you kind of idolised. But for me, it was a massive. It was really inspiring, and it kind of almost pushed me and motivated me to want to stay at that level and train with the players every day. And you've seen just the quality that they were able to produce in training every single day. So for me, that just helped me obviously stay motivated and want to develop my own game and continue to push to play at that level. And again, just moving out throughout my career, you play alongside some really top professionals, and again, that only helps develop you as a player as well. So I've thoroughly enjoyed playing at all the different clubs that I have, and now being an older player, that's something that I take a huge responsibility in, obviously helping to develop younger players and show them what the standard is in training and what's expected to be a professional and a top professional day to day.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. And I'm assuming like sort of like, the more professional the clubs are, the culture's more professional and everyone's working harder and trying to achieve those goals or try and have those lofty standards.
hmm Yeah, definitely. I think like the culture's a huge piece, and I think just with the game again developing, that's the one thing that when I was in Arsenal, you seen right away everybody was ready the minute you came into train, like everybody was on it, and you had to be as well because the standard of the players that you were playing against and training every day and competing with to try and to get some game time was tough. But again, like culture, I think for me is hugely important, and we all play a part in helping to obviously improve it and to keep the standard day to day. So again, that's something that at Birmingham we are really hot on and want to continue to push for kind of a culture of excellence.
Yeah, it must be working because they're on top of the table at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, we're top at the moment. Yeah, so hopefully that can continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be cheering you on, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Um, so what does it mean to you to captain Birmingham and how do you approach being a leader?
Obviously it's a huge honour for me to captain Birmingham. I think when I first joined the club, it wasn't really something that I was expecting, but obviously being a little bit older and having different experiences both at various clubs in the WSL and then playing internationally, it kind of gave me an opportunity to step outside my comfort zone and to lead. And I think when it first happened, I just wanted to be myself. Like I think as a leader, you need to be authentic. You need to be able to walk the walk as well. You can't ask people to do something that you've not been doing yourself. So I think for me, it's always holding high standards for myself so that when I do ask that of others, then again, that's just an expectation and a norm. But I think as a leader, you need to obviously, in my opinion, lead with empathy and try to understand where people are at and what their motivation is, so that you can kind of help get that out, get the best out of them, whilst also still demanding good standards every day. Because again, like I said, when at Birmingham, we're obviously trying to create that kind of culture of excellence and push and drive to be back in the WSL. So it's important that every day you show up and want to give the best for yourself and also most importantly for the team.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that'd be quite difficult. Like you said, dealing with or being empathetic to some sort of like situations, while also, sometimes you got to be coming down hard on people and sort of
Mhm.
steering that culture the way you want it to be.
Yeah, I think it's just having expectations and kind of being clear on them at the start of the season, what we expect, what we don't expect, what we don't want, and the things that are going to help obviously drive us to get success at the end of the season. So it's just being clear on them, and when there is maybe little blips, just kind of like pulling people along, pushing them and challenging them to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And like I'm assuming like you have sort of like those club ethos sort of things, like, this is what we expect at Birmingham and sort of are
hmm
they like on the walls sort of thing and like, you can point at that and say, hey, you're not meeting that.
Some of them, so we've just had actually the training ground all pretty much done up and upgraded, which has been brilliant. So there's obviously a lot of history, like pictures and things that the people at the club, boys, girls, women's team, men's team, that have done over the years. And I think it's just remembering what the club's about. But I think something that's really been important for us as a team, the women's team in particular, is team first mentality. That everything we're doing is there to benefit the team, and that our behaviours align with that every day.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's good. That's good insight actually to like young girls and sort of what their expectations are at that level. Um,
Mhm.
okay, so with over like 50 international caps for Scotland, what advice can you give young players about competing at international level?
I think for to compete at international level, it's just making sure that every day, again, similar to what I said earlier, that you are trying to get better than you were the day before. I think as a young player, I was and still am obsessed about getting better. So, like I said, when I was younger, I was out practicing all the time. I was watching videos of players that I admired and trying to go and practice some of the skills or movements that they did in a game. I was constantly obsessed by practicing my first touch, doing kick-ups, my passing quality. Like every single day, I was always trying to work on something. And I think that kind of relentless pursuit of trying to be better allowed me to play at a high level. And just that obsession about loving football as well. Because I think if you don't love something when times are hard, sometimes it's easy just to walk away. Whereas if you're obsessed and enjoy and love playing your sport, then you're going to do whatever you can to make sure that you get that opportunity again and compete. So I think for me that work rate and kind of wanting to always be better is hugely important.
Does that mean you practice a few of Ronaldinho's tricks?
Oh, I used to love them. I used to watch the Nike adverts when I was young. I'd go and watch it, then I'd run outside and try and practice it, and then sometimes I'd pause it, and then I'd go back and see what he did, and then I'd go back out again. So I was
Yeah.
constantly always practicing my kick-ups and tricks and skills and stuff to try and elevate my game. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing that as a kid. Still do, to be honest.
That's so good. My son actually like I thought this generation like with having all the devices would be a really bad thing. But my son, he's on YouTube and he gets like he has so many tricks at his disposal. So he like gets it and he have like a video pop up and he'll just pause it and he like runs outside, starts working on it, and
Yeah,
comes inside and I pushes play again. I think it's
love
great. I
it.
think it's yeah, it's so good to see.
That's so nice to hear.
Okay, so what do you think are the biggest challenges young female athletes today have compared to when you were starting?
Um, that's a good question. I think when I was younger, the challenge was finding other girls that played football or finding a women's football team or a girls' football team because I mean, I didn't join a girls' team until I was maybe 11. Whereas now young girls have access to joining teams from the age of 6 or 7, maybe even younger. Um, I think maybe the challenge now is that there's more girls playing, so that reaching the top level of football, if that's what a young girl's aspiration is maybe going to be harder because there's more girls playing. Um, but I don't know. I think maybe I don't know if social media would be one a different challenge. Just be like the pressures and watching others and trying to compare yourself to them instead of just enjoying playing football and kind of being focused on yourself because I didn't see anybody else playing football. I didn't have social media. So I don't really know. That's quite a challenging question. I think there's maybe other kind of child maybe another challenge could be that maybe not everyone has access to play to be able to pay for additional coaches or like one-to-one coaches that maybe a lot of young kids now have access to if their parents can afford to or their guardians can afford to pay for. So maybe that could be another challenge.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're seeing a lot of that over here as well. Like we've got a lot of like side academies and a lot of one-on-one
Mm.
coaching and stuff like that. And I've definitely noticed that there's a lot more um, options available. Like we used to have like our club and we'd have training with our clubs and then we'd have like,
Mhm.
state teams and stuff like that. Whereas
Yeah.
now it seems like kids have so much coaching like available to them. It's wild.
Yeah, and sometimes like I think again, more so when I was growing up, the playing football in the streets and playing with the boys and just putting down some jumpers and making your own games up and being your own decision maker and figuring it out on your own. Sometimes that was like the best bit because you didn't have somebody in your ear or you didn't have people watching you. It was just that kind of free and playing. Um, I think maybe sometimes that's a little bit missing now because maybe kids don't play in the street the same way that they used to when I was younger. So I don't know.
That's a good point actually, because like yeah, I remember like playing with your mates and you'd set up like jumpers or whatever, just whatever you could find and use whatever you could find as a ball, and it'd just be chaos and there'd just be arguments and a
Yeah,
little bit of beef and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 100%. That's interesting actually. Um, okay, so how important is resilience for a footballer, and how can young players develop this quality in their journey?
I mean, it's massive. I think in anything in life, if you kind of need to have resilience, but unfortunately, I think that you need to kind of go through some challenging times to develop it, and figure out ways to get better. I think again, even just experiencing now, there's always moments where maybe you're not playing, maybe you get an injury, maybe the coach just is giving you a little bit of a harder time. I don't know. There's loads of different challenges. You get dropped from your club, you have to find a new club, being let down. I think all those sort of things that happen in your football career. You have a choice. You can either give up or you can look at it as an opportunity to kind of prove yourself right, to go and work hard and go and develop your game again, add another layer to your the way that you play. If maybe a coach says you don't, I don't know, you're maybe not fast enough or you're not strong enough or you're technically not as good, go and develop those aspects of your game and then try and take your game to the next level. I think if any young athlete or footballer wants to play at the highest level, that's definitely an area of their kind of own kind of personal development and strength is something that they'll need to have if they want to have a long career in professional sport.
Yeah, right. So it's like super important to have that like growth mindset. And so like,
Hmm.
like you're saying, if like sort of a weakness is sort of highlighted at any point, don't see it as a weakness, maybe see it as an opportunity to turn that into a strength and work on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, we're all not perfect. There's always going to be areas of our game that other people are better at, but why can't we just keep working on it anyway? And developing. And sometimes in football, maybe one coach likes you, and then maybe you move to another club and the other coach doesn't really like you. But I think it's just trying to find a way where you can enjoy your football and continuously try to improve. With that kind of growth mindset to taking feedback on and then going away and working on your game.
Yeah, that seems to be something that's raised, or that's definitely appeared in the last episode as well, about how like sometimes you go somewhere and a coach might not like you, or the system might not work for you, or you might have a bad run, and like if that happens, maybe just try somewhere else, or just keep knocking doors and keep trying somewhere else until you find the one that fits. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think just in general, just being like consistent with your behaviours, consistent with your training, consistent with trying to get better, because the power of compounding, you don't see it overnight and you don't even see it in a year's time, but 2, 3 year, 4 years down the line, you then go, oh my goodness, like I've actually that's one of my strengths now. So it's
Yeah.
believing in that what you're doing now is going to benefit you, your future self, and further down in your journey in whatever it is you're doing in football or sport. It's just that kind of like continuously learning, being okay, and working for future you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good advice, I think. All right. So what sort of inspired you to start the Christie Murray Football Academy, and what do you aim to achieve with it?
I think I wanted the opportunity to give back to young girls. I never obviously had the opportunity to work with many female coaches at a young age. And so for me, obviously still playing the game, I wanted to be able to try and reach as many young girls as I can and help them develop technically, share any ideas, answer any questions, inspire and help develop female footballers. Um, the vision for it is constantly evolving. It's pretty early days at the moment, but um, yeah, I think long term I would love to be able to have some like football teams. At the moment, it's individual, small group sessions. But long term, yeah, I would love to kind of dot them over the country and be able to help kind of develop technically gifted young females. That's the aim, to get them as comfortable on the football as possible, and then the world is their oyster, and help them kind of in their football journey, whether they want to just play grassroots and just get better, or if they aspire to play at a higher level, then try and help them along their journey.
Yeah, I think we like touched a bit about it before, but it really is exciting to me, like what the women's football frontier is going to look like in the next 5 years, 10 years. Like just they're like you said, like they're starting at a younger age now. They've got the female role models in place, like filling out stadiums, like the one-on-one coaching and everything. Like it's pretty exciting to see what kind of players are going to develop from that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just with more girls playing as well, it's going to be more competitive and obviously help drive the standard of young girls and females coming through. So I'm super excited to see kind of how it turns out in the next 5 to 10 years for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Um, how does your academy help young athletes develop skills, mindset, and sort of the discipline needed to have a successful football career?
Yeah, I think at the moment, again, I'm working with a lot of younger girls, so kind of under 10s. I've worked with some older players as well, but at the moment it's obviously younger girls, so it's trying to help them develop technically first and foremost, and then obviously have the kind of balance and awareness in and around space and with the ball. So it's just, yeah, that's the main focus in trying to bring them into com the decision making of 2v1s, 1v1s, all the kind of small sided kind of games to help with that kind of technical and kind of game understanding and awareness.
Yeah, nice. All right. So what sort of specific qualities or habits do you believe set future stars apart from the rest?
Mm. I think being diligent and committed. I think that kind of every day, like I said, that every day wanting to get better, spending time refining your craft. Um, Maybe if you have the opportunity to watch back any footage of your games, critiquing yourself, looking at areas that you can get better. I think being open-minded, to taking on feedback. Again, that kind of growth mindset that you spoke about earlier. It's just, yeah, just that kind of relentless pursuit of trying to get better, I think, and a little bit of thick-skinnedness as well, being able to take on feedback and maybe some criticism. That's quite difficult as a young athlete sometimes, but I think if you can look at it as an opportunity to get better, then I think you'll do pretty well.
Yeah. So like, so is your like change room or your club basically is the majority of people in those teams all like growth mindset, all like thinking in that sort of way, like they all want to get better, and is that
Yeah,
what it's sort of like?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Obviously, to a greater or lesser extent, if you're on a spectrum, there's people that are maybe more open than others when it comes to
Yeah.
feedback, and that's just a personal kind of like that. That's just their person. But I think at the highest level, most people, if not all, want to get better and want to be the best version of themselves and want to be able to show that every day. So I think at kind of like professional level, you kind of have to be.
Yeah. I think I'm glad we highlighted that because I think for children and parents, I think that's really key to becoming an elite athlete. And like you're saying, from your perspective in your team, like you just have to be striving to get better all the time. So I think like young players, if they know that, if they know that's what they've got to head in that direction, they can sort of start thinking about that now and instilling that mindset. And you know, maybe if they don't have it, then they can sort of progress on that, or even take notes at this and go, that's what I need to start working on.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely. And I think sometimes, sorry, to go back to the point earlier, and you say challenges of young females or young athletes, I think potentially parents. I think sometimes that can be quite a challenge,
yeah,
um, because sometimes parents can put quite a big expectation on young people. Not all, but some. And I think just like allowing them to kind of navigate their own journey. And I think that's important as well. So
yeah.
rather than being too overpowering, just allowing them to figure it out, make mistakes. Like I think that there's something good about that.
Yeah. Like, would you say sort of it's a good thing sometimes to make mistakes? Like, it's
Oh my
sometimes
God,
good
yeah.
for them. Yeah, because like they
Yeah.
can learn from that, can't they?
Yeah, yeah. Mistakes, they're happening all the time in football. Sometimes the best things in football happen from mistakes. So
Mm.
I think it's not being, I think as a young footballer as well, not being downhearted when you make mistakes. It's actually, again, like we say, another opportunity for you to figure out why it happened or what you would do the next time or how to change it and how to make it better. So I think like that's definitely one of the main things as a young athlete. You need to be okay with making mistakes.
Yeah. I think I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about I think it was a coach for Roger Federer or something like that, and he was talking about how the guys at the top, they have to have that mindset. They don't get down when it's a loss or a mistake's made, like you're saying. They actually see it as an opportunity. They see it as an
Mhm.
opportunity to improve themselves. So yeah, I think we've highlighted that as well. But yeah, it's definitely the way to be.
For sure.
Um, okay, so how important is sort of like a balanced approach to training, recovery, and nutrition, sort of, and strength and conditioning? I suppose like all of those facets have to be thought about when you're becoming an elite athlete, sort of in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like coming through as a young athlete, I maybe didn't have the access to the resources that a lot of young people do have now, especially even just with social media or YouTube. There's so many um, great places that you can go and find information and how to get better, and it's free. So I think all of the kind of areas that you mentioned are hugely important. And going to America for me was that kind of initial stage of developing physically, that kind of understanding of like the physical demands of football in areas where I needed to get better. When I graduated from school, I then went to university and at Stirling, which was like a sports performance, well, a football based performance that fed into the national team. So it was all the talented, kind of next generation of young talented footballers that were then put on a scholarship to do university, train first thing in the morning, and then train with your club in the evening. So it was very full on. And during that time, we had the opportunity to then work at our kind of strength and conditioning. So that's when I really spent time developing my strength, injury prevention kind of techniques and exercises. And then when we got like some cooking lessons, because we'd again, a lot of the girls had just moved away from home, what to eat when fueling for training, fueling post training, and then depending on how big a day we had, what kind of nutritional kind of what would you say, gold standard kind of like what your plate looked like. We started to understand what that was, and I think for me as a young athlete at that point, that was hugely beneficial. And again, hydration, sleep, all these different things that as an athlete are crucial to helping you perform and develop.
Yeah, that's all stuff I'm very passionate about. And
Hmm.
for me personally, like from my understanding now of sort of elite level nutrition and sort of recovery and sleep and stuff like that, my goal is to basically give that. I want to try and help semi-pro athletes and amateur athletes understand
Yeah,
these things. And if I can get them into that or have that information provided to them at an early age, hopefully, like you said, with the compounding, we can add that up early, and by the time they get to their later years, it has massive effect on them and their careers and longevity and life, and they live happier and healthier. So yeah, that speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think just being educated on it too. I think if you're a young athlete, if you don't have or you don't know that, try and go and research or speak to people like yourself where you can learn those habits. And I think the younger the better, because then when you
mm,
get into kind of senior football or professional sport, it becomes automatic, it becomes a lifestyle, and you don't really think about it as much. It just, yeah, it allows you to focus your energy more on performing.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, you mentioned that when you got to America, you found that you needed to improve physically. Did you have trouble, or did you have something you had to work on to sort of like cover the high speed meters, or was there something that you needed to work on specifically there?
I think just training as an athlete, before I went, I was only training with my club twice a week.
Oh,
So
right, wow.
the game hadn't evolved then. Like we were just training at a grassroots pitch, like a local pitch, and with parents that were our coaches. So, and then that I used that as an opportunity to kind of develop my endurance, competing against people and strength development, playing against people that were a lot stronger and older than me. Um, and yeah, I think like it was a little bit of everything, to be honest. It was more kind of like more rounded in terms of just becoming a better athlete and understanding like the physical demands of football and what I needed to do. So then when even we'd finish pre-season when we're doing 3 a days, like I would go in the morning first thing before my classes about 8 a.m. and do some like high speed runs. We had an indoor track round the gymnasium. So I'd sprint the lanes, jog or walk the widths, and I'd be doing that maybe a couple of times a week to kind of try and find my edge and push my game. And then I'd have training in the afternoon. So it kind of helped me develop that kind of single-mindedness and developing myself physically.
Yeah. That's I think a lot of players don't really think about that at sort of the younger levels. Like I don't think they realize like the distances you guys cover and like the high
Mhm.
speed meters and stuff like that, and like how you actually have to get your body to be able to do those kind of things and really push it. Because like you said, you're competing against so many like high level people and everyone's trying to push each other and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah, it's an amazing insight. Okay, so what are your hopes for the next generation of women's footballers, and how do you see your role in shaping that future?
Oh, good question. I think for the game to continue developing, and having the visibility and fans and kind of like growing again. Like we in England, there's clubs selling out stadiums. Like how good would it be if nearly every weekend there was stadiums being sold out even more, at both levels, both in the WSL and the Championship, and kind of increasing that fan engagement, increasing the people that want to come and watch the games, and increasing obviously the quality of football that's on display. So I'm excited to see how it develops for sure in the next few years. And whenever I finish playing, I would like to be able to be part of that and help develop the next generation of footballers and professional sport.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I sort of touched on this a bit before, but like having that Women's World Cup here, like it was absolutely buzzing. And like being from Australia, obviously, like football's not really, it's not our number one sport. Like it's
Yeah,
up there, and we've got a lot of
yeah.
participation in our young kids. But we've got like the AFL here and rugby and stuff like that, which compete a lot with us.
Mhm.
But when the Women's World Cup was on, like absolutely buzzing. Like to see like so many people talking about it, and I think it helped that Matildas carried on and did quite well and had that
Yeah.
crazy penalty shootout. But like our papers and stuff like that, like you would never have seen football on them, and we were like covering it all over. It was just Matildas and Women's World Cup. So yeah, it was really really exciting.
It's exciting. It just sees you just. It's nice to see how it just captures the nation. The nation. It was similar here when England hosted the Euros, and the influx of young girls wanting to play and join in playing football was amazing. And yeah, I think hopefully the next World Cup and the next Euros can do the same and continue to again compound that kind of excitement around women's football.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Exciting times ahead. All right, so I've just got some short fire questions for you now.
Sure.
So first one is, who is your footballing idol? I think we touched a bit on this.
Yeah, it was definitely Henrik Larsson and Ronaldinho. It was both of them. Yeah, I would say they two.
Yep. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Healing.
Healing.
Yeah.
That's first. I haven't heard that one yet. Are you having some trouble with injuries at the moment, or?
No, I mean, if there was like sick people, I would want to be able to
Oh,
make
you'd
them
heal
better.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I like it. Pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
Yeah. Do you have a
Yeah.
specific type that you?
I like amatriciana, which is like a tomato one with some like bacon or ham fruit.
Lovely, lovely. If you played a different sport, what would it have been?
Oh, good question. Hmm. I don't really know if it would have been another sport. I did taekwondo when I was younger. I don't know if I would have went to a higher level with it. But I enjoy watching tennis. So if I could have played any sport now, like looking back, I would have loved to have played tennis. But being 5'1", it might have been a little bit more challenging. But yeah, maybe tennis.
Yeah, nice. Um, who is the toughest opponent you've faced on the pitch?
Do you mean as a team or individual?
Let's go individual.
Um, I think when I was younger, we played in the Champions League against a team called Frankfurt, and there was a German international that played in midfield against me. Her name was Jennifer Marajan, and it was definitely her. She was so big and strong, but technically excellent. Like she could pass with both feet. She was a real player.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so pre-match meal of choice. Do you have like
Oh,
a routine?
um, do you know what? I don't really have a routine. I think when I was younger, I was quite stuck on that. As I've got older, I've kind of just been a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
Um, if it's a morning game, I usually like to have porridge with um, some seeds and some berries, and then usually an hour or two later, I'll have some pancakes again with some honey and banana.
Yeah, nice. So going from like the complex carbs there and going into some
Hmm.
nice simple carbs leading up to the game.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Who's your favorite teammate that you've ever played with?
Do you mean just as a player
Uh, no, just anyone really. Like,
that I've
yeah, just
enjoyed playing with? Oh, that's a hard
yeah,
question. There's quite a lot of them. Mm, I think I really enjoyed playing with Kim Little. I don't know if you'll know who she is, but she's an
yep,
absolute baller. We grew up at the same age groups through Scotland, and I really enjoyed playing alongside her. Yeah, both at youth national team and with the senior national team.
yeah. Is she still at Arsenal?
Yeah, captain.
Yeah, we're s-
Yeah, yeah.
we're pretty familiar with Arsenal at the moment because obviously we've got Steph
You
Catley
get a
and
few
Cara
Aussies.
Cooney. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Best advice you've ever received, and it doesn't have to be sporting.
Just to be myself, I would say that probably I think sometimes there's a lot of pressure on kind of trying to please people or meet expectations, but I think if you're just authentic and being yourself, like and being happy being yourself, then I think it's probably the best place to be kind of as a young athlete, trying to express yourself properly and not kind of worried about other people's opinions.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so one word to describe your playing style.
Technical.
Technical, nice. So I've got this last one. So this is sort of like your dream five-a-side team with past or present players.
Oh, hard. Right, okay. The hard one. Maybe Hannah Hampton in goal. Um, Kelly Smith, Kim Little, um, Caroline Weir, Erin Cuthbert.
Beautiful.
Or do I need to be in the team? Do I need to be in the team? Well, yeah,
No.
that was more than 5. Was it?
You're on the bench.
Oh, maybe we'll go with no goalkeeper and we'll just play.
Perfect. Sweeper keeper.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. No, that sounds good.
That's all for today, guys. You can follow The Football Nutritionist on Instagram and X, and jump onto our blog at thefootballnutritionist.wordpress.com. Remember, keep fueling for success and kicking those goals.